And the question is, will talks help end the wars? Just a few hours ago, in fact, Russian and American officials held talks on Ukraine in the capital city of Saudi Arabia. This was the first discussion on the issue since the war started 3 years ago in February 2022. Russia's chief foreign policy advisor, Yuri Ushakov, has said it, quote-unquote, went well, and that they had a serious conversation on all issues. Ushakov said that separate teams of Russian and US negotiators will begin communicating on Ukraine in due course. They also briefly discussed the conditions needed for a Putin-Trump summit. But here's the thing. The meeting took place without Ukraine or Europeans. Earlier, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky rejected any outcome from the talks that do not include Kyiv. And so all of this triggers several crucial questions. What do the US and Russia hope to gain from the Riyadh talks? Why have Europe and Ukraine been sidelined from the talks? What security guarantees, if any, can Ukraine actually expect from the discussions? And what role will Saudi Arabia play in the Ukraine solution? Let's first just take a look at who all attended the meeting in Riyadh. On the table were U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and the U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. The Russian side, meanwhile, was represented by the Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, Russia's Chief Foreign Policy Advisor Yuri Ushakov, and the hosts were Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud and the Saudi National Security Advisor Mossad bin Mohammed Al Eben. According to Reuters, the discussion started with Russia stating that NATO membership for Ukraine is simply unacceptable. Russia's foreign ministry also said NATO must disavow a promise made at NATO summit in 2008 that Ukraine would eventually become a member of the organization. Just for context here, at a summit in Romania's capital, in April 2008, NATO had declared that both Ukraine and Georgia would join the US-led defense alliance, but gave them no plan for actually how to get there. But you see, this demand should not be a problem as far as Washington is concerned, because earlier the Trump administration changed its position on Ukraine's NATO membership. Trump's team has stated that this is no longer on the table. Now remember, Ukraine's bid for NATO membership was a major factor that contributed to the war. According to the US State Department spokesperson, Tammy Bruce, US and Russian delegations have agreed to address irritants in their bilateral relationship. The two sides also agreed to appoint high-level teams for Ukraine talks and work towards ending the war as soon as possible. The statement further claimed that President Trump wants to stop the killing. The US wants peace and is using its strength in the world to bring countries together. The statement said, and I'm quoting, President Trump is the only leader in the world who can get Ukraine and Russia to agree to that. Now, 3 years after intense fighting has resulted in thousands of deaths on both sides, the message coming in from Washington surely undermines Ukraine's hopes and in a way raises doubts about its goal to reclaim all of its lost territory. We're not just talking about Crimea, which was annexed by Russia in 2014, but also the 4 regions of Luhansk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donetsk, which were, remember, annexed by Russia in 2022. Earlier, critics have argued that the Trump administration is making major concessions for Russia, while US officials maintain that they are simply recognizing the realities of the situation. Now, this is where these talks become absolutely crucial. Not only because Ukraine is part of the discussions, but also because other important issues are at stake. Both Putin and Trump have earlier expressed a desire to discuss topics beyond the war, including nuclear arms control, strategies to reduce global energy prices. Under the Biden administration, the United States provided Ukraine with tens of billions of dollars worth of weapons and aid. America also led Western governments in imposing a series of sanctions on Russia. However, Russia has managed to endure the sanctions. Now, with the way the talks have gone in Riyadh, we cannot help but wonder how Ukrainian and European officials are actually feeling. Both Ukraine and European leaders are concerned that Trump could hastily negotiate a deal with Russia, perhaps, that overlooks their security interests. rewards Russia, and in a way allows Putin to continue threatening Ukraine and possibly other countries in the future if he wants. However, like we told you last night, the sidelining of Europe in these discussions by Washington could show just how little influence they realistically have in matters concerning Ukraine, with dwindling armed forces and a dependency on American leadership and security support. They seem to have come to accept that they cannot help Ukraine without US backing. And so at this point, the question is, does their criticism truly matter? To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.